I have been using literacy circles with 6th class now for a number of years, and I would strongly encourage any teacher to give them a go. They would be equally suitable really for any class from 2nd to 6th. So, literacy circles, what are they and how do they function? Well, basically, it's where you divide your class into small groups, and these groups come together at least once a week to discuss the class shared text, for example, the class novel. However, it is not just an oral discussion group. There are activities which each child must complete before they meet up in their respective groups. They must come to the discussion with their thoughts already formulated, organised and ready to share in a coherent and clear way. Literature circles themselves are research-based and proven to encourage students to develop a much deeper understanding and appreciation of a text, and indeed an appreciation for the opinions and ideas of others, which is really important. Children are thoroughly engaged, and I can tell you this because I have used them for a number of years now. They are thoroughly engaged as they themselves take complete ownership of their learning while the teacher acts as a facilitator only. Now, that is really important. The teacher's only role in this process is as facilitator. In this process, you are the guide on the side, so to speak. You are not the sage on the stage for this one. So how do they work and how to set them up? Okay, so you split your class into mixed ability groups of 5 or 6 pupils. It's really important that they are mixed ability, so the more able children will help the others along. I use their reading ages from the previous year and my professional judgment, of course, to ensure that there are strong, average and less able children in each group. To maximise discussions, each child in the group is assigned a role. The roles are as follows, and each year I put up the following homemade charts to clearly define the role for the children. As you will see, it is explicitly stated on each chart what is required of each child within the role. There is no ambiguity here. Then no time is lost with, teacher, I can't remember what to do. Now, obviously, with a younger class, you might need to modify the language that's on these charts. So here we go. The summariser provides a clear, well-organised summary of the piece of text that they have read. They focus on key details, characters, events and relevant timelines. The artful artist creates an interesting picture, perhaps a comic strip, really any visual of choice that illustrates something important from the script. The passage picker will select key passages from the text to read aloud, and more importantly, they must explain why these passages are important. They can, of course, also pick a favourite passage as long as they can give reasons for their selection. The word wizard finds and records new words and checks their meaning. They may find interesting words and say why he or she finds them to be interesting. They may list keywords and explain them, or perhaps highlight figurative language from the text. The connector finds connections describing how the text connects to their life, to other texts and to the wider world. The discussion director's role is to guide the discussion, asking questions and encouraging all members to contribute, along with encouraging good speaking and listening. Now, they also know that they must prepare questions according to the hear, hidden and head model. Basically, they must ensure that questions range from basic recall to inferential and higher order thinking. As you can see, there are 6 roles, but if you find that a group of 5 suits the logistics and numbers of your class better, just leave out one role each week. Once the children know the group they are in, they come together, they discuss, and they decide on a name for their group. Then they write their group name in the centre of a circular piece of paper, and they record their own names around this with an icon that represents them as an individual within the group. So they just draw a little icon underneath their own name. Then this is displayed on the wall beside your posters as a reminder to everyone of who is in what group. Now the class is set up to begin literacy circles. Here is a format that works really, really well. So put up your posters on the wall in the following order. Now this is important. So take poster number 1, that's your summariser. Beside it you have poster number 2, the Artful Artist. Number 3 is the Passage Picker. Number 4 is the Word Wizard. Number 5 is the Clever Connector. And number 6 is the Discussion Director. Now make sure that you number your posters in that order. Then you assign a role to each child within each group. Explain to the children that each week they move to the next role according to the poster layout and the numbers on the poster. For example, in the next session, the summariser will become the Artful Artist, the Artful Artist will become the Passage Picker, and the Passage Picker will become the Word Wizard, and it moves along like that. Therefore, each week there's no time at all wasted assigning roles, because the children are really clear that if I was the summariser last week, well then I'm going to be the Artful Artist this week. At the start of literacy circles, children remain seated in their usual places. There is no moving at all involved at this stage. So they are assigned a certain amount of the shared text to read silently. So for example, if you're reading the novel The Wish List by Owen Colfer, you might assign them the next 3 pages to read. Allow about 10 minutes for this activity. So while the children are silently reading, this is the bit now I really love about literacy circles. The class teacher can focus on the target children for literacy. So while the children are silently reading the piece you've assigned them to read, you can be working one-to-one with a child, hearing their reading, perhaps discussing the plot so far to ensure that they are understanding it. You could be running a miscue analysis. Whatever the needs of a particular child are, you can be targeting them. Now, personally, I find this time invaluable to allow me run little informal assessments for my assessment for learning and my assessment of learning. When the children are finished reading their assigned piece, or the time is up, they move on to performing the duties of their role. Now, this activity is done in their copies. As class teacher, you will have explained and gone through all of this, and you will have modelled it as perhaps a fishbowl activity before you begin doing your literacy circles with the whole class. Therefore, there is no need at all at this stage for any questioning or discussion, because children will be crystal clear on it all. They are independently carrying out their role. Again, allow 10 to 15 minutes for this. As teacher then, you can circulate at this stage to ensure that they're all doing as required, and you can also perhaps get to another target child or two to do some one-to-one. So it's a really win-win situation here. When written records are completed, the children are asked to move to their literacy circle group. The children must be explicitly taught now how to move back the furniture quietly and safely and arrange their group in a small circle. Again, you will have modelled and gone through lots of practice with the children previous to starting your literacy circle. And after practicing this a few times, as teacher, you should only have to say, move into your groups now, remembering QQS. So I always teach this to the children, and QQS stands for quickly, quietly, safely. Once in their groups, then the discussion may begin, and it begins by the person who followed chart 1, which is of course the summariser. So the summariser begins by reading out their summary of the assigned piece of text. So they read out the summary to the group, and then they invite questions or comments which the group discusses. Next, the Artful Artist shows their drawing or visual, and they explain why they chose to illustrate that part of the text. They talk about their drawing and what it represents. Again, when finished, they invite discussion, comments, questions about the drawing, and all of that. Then the passage picker reports on their choice of passage and their reasons for choosing it. And perhaps they will read out part of the passage. The word wizard then shares their words, again explaining why they chose those words, the meaning of the words. And this is how your group discussion continues until all the roles have shared their work and invited comments and discussions. During this, the role of the discussion director is very important. The discussion director is guiding the discussion, encouraging all members to contribute. They're encouraging good speaking and listening skills, monitoring the noise level within the group, that you're using your 30 centimetre voices and all of that. And they will, of course, also have their own questions ready for the end of the discussion. During this time, you as class teacher are circulating between the groups. You're encouraging, you're observing, you're recording your observations, perhaps, and you are facilitating. The number one word, facilitating. And when the discussion is finished, which roughly takes about 15 minutes, each group can then share one relevant point that they found interesting with the rest of the class. And then the class is returned to normal using QQS, quietly, quickly, safely. And there you have it, literacy circles. Give it a go.